Date and time of the next regular meetings posted on the agenda. It does appear that we may have public participation. All right, let's start with Benjamin Beaupre. Remember, you have 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you in person again. Just wanted to thank everybody for their work on the ARPA funds, the violence prevention task force, and especially the staff and administration with the spreadsheets and some of the fellow nerds on the county board into their spreadsheets. It really helped keep a lot of really great programs that are getting funding sorted. I appreciated all the work I saw watching those meetings remotely. The cooperation, the bipartisan cooperation on checking to see if those programs were sustainable, if they were, if they were getting off the ground versus, something already somewhat established that, the funds could actually be put to work in the time, required under the ARPA rules. So just, it was really nice to see that cooperation and see it continuing to be put on the agenda. There's a lot of really great programs in there, too many to list in a few minutes, and there's a lot of other people that want to talk. So the only other thing I wanted to point out is with those programs going forward, the Racial Justice Task Force overarching recommendations included a coordinating council and an oversight commission. I've reached out to the Justice and Social Services Committee members and the liaison to the Champaign County Reentry Council to meet and talk about how we move forward to make sure these programs work, that the money's going to the right place. There's already a lot of work in the community, like the Community Coalition has a countywide coordinating committee that probably needs a jump start. The Regional Planning Commission already neck deep in a lot of this stuff, and so there's a lot of ground already covered, but coordination has always been kind of the bane of all these programs' existence. Nobody knows what's going on, not even the other programs that are doing some similar work that's very complementary. So I look forward to meeting with you and following up and making our community a better place. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's see, Nicole Massey.
Does it work? Yes.
Yes.
Right. Good evening. And thank you for giving me the chance to talk about our Stop the Violence for Veterans and Their Families program again. I think I just want to take this time to clarify this program a little bit. It appeared that there were some questions, what the actual goals are, and how we're hoping to improve the community. First of all, the goal for this program is that we want to serve in the first year 50 veterans plus the family members. This is an important part of the program, that the family will be included. In the community, there has not been a program like that really includes the families and provides training for them. The VA, most of the time, provides assistance to the veteran. And the VA, who we work with, and the VA in Danville supports this program, focuses on the veteran, and most of the time it's a veteran in immediate crisis. This is not the population that we want to target. We want to give veterans the chance to address issues that deal with PTSD and the effect of trauma in the family before it comes to the crisis situation, or after the crisis is resolved. For example, when the veterans have been in the PRRTP program at the VA, that they have resources available to them afterwards. So what we're hoping to achieve is, and the plan that we have discussed with the reduced funding that is hopefully available, that the program will start with a conference inviting veterans, families, and stakeholders to provide an overview over PTSD, other mental health issues, effects on the family, and a trauma-informed care. After that, there will be additional trainings for veterans that have gone through the conference to provide them with tools to address triggering situations, to allow families to handle stressful situations, and most of all, I think, just to understand what actually is PTSD. Not what some people think PTSD is, but what is PTSD, what is TBI, what is bipolar disorder, what is depression, and what is anxiety, and how do we address the different situations. And the difference is really that the families are included so they can learn strategies, how to reduce the violence in the family, how to reduce self-harm or harm to others when stressful situations occur. Like I said, the goal would be to get 50 veterans into that program, which should not be a problem because we're working with the VA in Danville and they have the connections and they can identify the veterans and can refer them to our program. We also reached out to the Veterans Assistance Commission here and explained our program. They have to meet and there will be further discussions with them how they can work with us. Because we do hope that at the end there will be a sustainable program over a longer period of time that will be in the community and will keep the community safe and give our veterans tools and a place to go to address those issues. The other part that we're hoping to achieve is then the peer support, so veterans can turn to their peers for advice before a crisis is actually happening and feel the safety again and learn what it means to be in that community and trust themselves in their reactions. Those are all tools if you're dealing with PTSD that are not always available, but there needs to be training, and we hope that we can provide that to the veterans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leanne Kelly.
What button do I press?
You're on.
Got it, okay. Yeah, but then I just lost what I wrote. Okay, so thank you all for your service. I am here to encourage full support of the proposed designation for the funding for the American Rescue Plan. The money the money that's providing our county with a unique opportunity to reduce and prevent community violence by addressing the social determinants of health. If you don't know what those are, it's economic stability, quality healthcare access, neighborhood and built environment, social and community context, and quality education. We need a comprehensive response. And these 5 areas can be addressed because the lack of any of these can contribute to the traumatization of youth. And if you know anything about adverse childhood experiences, it continues into adulthood. So these youth at some point may act out that pain in violence. As board chair of the president of the Trauma and Resilience Initiative, I cannot overstate the importance of providing both the services to enable survivors to overcome their trauma and learn resiliency, as well as equipping our community by teaching all members of our community what the impact of trauma is and the tools of resilience in our neighborhoods, in our agencies, our schools, and our city government. Understanding this impact fosters empathy needed to support our neighbors and our clients. No human can heal alone. It truly takes a village to heal. So thank you for your service and your concern.
Thank you. Lynn Barnes, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lynn Barnes, and I'm a resident of Champaign County who is concerned about the shortage of quality nursing home beds in our area. In addition, I'm an occupational therapist, and I recently served, prior to my retirement in February of 2022, as president of Carle Foundation Hospital. Both of these roles have afforded me ample opportunity to see both the need for these services as well as the necessary effort that it takes to provide them well. The data is clear, and as Kathy will soon share, and Carle Hospital does continue to experience a shortage of hospital beds, and not always because of demand, but many times because patients are in those beds because they can't go to another facility because there isn't a facility bed available. This can sometimes take days or even weeks, and even when a placement is found, occasionally, and more often now with the closure of University Rehab, it is outside of Champaign County. Longer distances further tax families who are already dealing with personal loss, cost, and life disruption. This is not just a unique problem for Carle Hospital, but in fact is an issue for many area hospitals. Champaign County residents absolutely deserve better. We have a problem, and it won't be solved with small, dinky solutions. What we need is a big and collaborative solution, big ideas, creative ideas, and we need help in getting there in the form of 3 actions from the county board. Number 1, we need a needs assessment and subsequent recommendations. So a needs assessment would help us to kind of identify exactly what we're talking about and make sure we're grappling with exactly the right data. We also need a contact person from the county board with whom we can work. And we need help in delaying the sale of the facility in order to keep our options open. And that is really important. Within our community, we could have an excellent facility. Well, we do have an excellent facility ready to go. It's like a building. It's right there with all these wings, and it's ready to go. And if we have a lot of intelligent people in our county, and if we can put that building with a bunch of intelligent people and some great ideas and probably some money, okay, gotta have money, we could make something happen here that would be special. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking just a run-of-the-mill kind of a nursing home. I'm talking about something special and something that's unique. You know, and boy, we want to see that for Champaign County. We've got some good nursing home beds here in town. We do, absolutely. But we do not have enough. And we do not have enough variety of types of nursing homes. So we have got to do something. So you guys, traditional efforts are not going to be successful. They're just not. We're going to have to do something untraditional. So together, and we're here for you, let's figure this out, how we can provide more high-quality nursing home care to the residents of our county. And thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Peggy Patton. Peggy, I know you're not going to be at a loss for words, so thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Peggy Patton, and my husband, Todd Kinney, who could not be here this evening. We urge the county board to address the critical shortage of nursing home beds in our area. Additionally, we ask that you postpone the sale of University Rehab of CU until an assessment of the impact of its closure is conducted. University Rehab Center administrators made the frequent claim that they were forced to close their facility because of reduced demand for nursing home beds in our area. Our recent experience with finding nursing home beds in our community, and with University Rehab Center in particular, tells a different story. We moved our mother from Ohio to Illinois in June 2022, a year ago, hoping to have her in Champaign-Urbana to be close to us. In the spring of 2022, we spent weeks visiting numerous nursing home facilities in CU and the outlying area. Much to our dismay, we found no facility that offered satisfactory care either because staffing was inadequate and/or the physical facility was lacking. And we were looking for skilled nursing care in a facility that accepted Medicaid. We were especially disappointed by the response we received from University Rehab Center of Champaign-Urbana. We had visited that facility years ago when it was the Champaign County Nursing Home and were pleased with the care it provided. Last spring, we tried on 3 different occasions to make an appointment to visit University Rehab Center, leaving a message each time about the reason for our call. We asked the receptionist if we were contacting the right individual to set up a visit, and she had assured us that we were. We never received a return call. It appeared to us that University Rehab Center was not interested in filling their beds. Fortunately, we found a wonderful facility in Gifford with compassionate and competent staff, as well as a comfortable and attractive facility. Securing quality nursing home care for our mother is well worth the 30-minute drive to Gifford, but we are saddened and frankly appalled that such care is not offered in Champaign-Urbana. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Peggy. Jan Sherbert.
Okay. My name is Janice Sherbert. I have lived in Urbana many years. I was a teacher at Yankee Ridge and Urbana schools for, I won't say how many, and I taught elementary, I taught reading recovery, I also taught international, and then I taught at the University of Illinois, lecture. I am going to share my experience with nursing home care in this area. And it's not easy. A few years ago, when my husband was in the mid-stages of dementia, I took care of his sister whose husband had died and then her daughter had died. And she was in the Champaign County Nursing Home for her final days, weeks, months, and it was a very caring experience. And when my husband had a serious stroke and we needed nursing care, there was none in Champaign County. He's had a very serious stroke, and I couldn't take care of him according to the doctors. The only place available was an hour's drive, and so every day I drove the hour there and back, unless the roads were bad because it was winter. Not having sufficient quality nursing in Champaign County is a hardship for so many that have neither the means nor the time. So I now know of individuals who are driving to Indianapolis and all over the state to see their loved ones, but not everybody can do that. I hope that we can find a way to work together to help find a way to solve the crisis. You never know when you're going to need that help. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Joan Dixon.
Good evening. My name is Joan Dixon, and actually I'm going to reiterate toward the end of my few lines here some of the things that Lynn said, but I'm a lifelong resident of Champaign County. My mother attended adult daycare program at Champaign County Nursing Home as she spun down through dementia. And it was a wonderful experience for her. It allowed me to continue working full-time, and it allowed her to be in a safe place. I also serve on, and that's an option, obviously, that's no longer available to many in this community. I serve on the Age-Friendly Community Steering Committee, and I'm also the current Executive Director of Family Service of Champaign County. The major work of family service is to help older adults stay in their homes safely for as long as possible. For many, of course, there comes a time when they need more assistance than we can offer them, or than they can afford if they had to hire private assistance. So our organization has a huge concern about access for our community and our county's older adults for skilled nursing beds. I believe you have received a paper that describes some of the concerns from the advocates for nursing home care. You'll notice on the back there's about 100 people's names listed. Those are individuals, those are not organizations. Those are individuals that are concerned. We're adding 5 to 6 names. I got 2 people at a meeting this afternoon who said, oh, please, let me be put on that list. Many of those advocates are here with us this evening, and if you wouldn't mind standing if you're concerned about the county's nursing situation. Thank you. Thank you. The advocates for nursing home care, we don't want the county to build a nursing home. We don't want the county to run a nursing home. That's not what the county board is designed to do, nor is that the strong suit of the county. We don't want you to do that. But we do want you to help us get what we need for the citizens of Champaign County. So we have the 3 simple asks that Lynn mentioned. We want you to stand strong and continue to enforce the existing contract that would say that whoever owns University Rehab, whoever owns that building just right over there, has to maintain it as a nursing home until the end of that contract, which I think is 2027. By doing this, you will allow us time to identify a creative, innovative, and financially sustainable response to this crisis. A solution that sets us apart as an exceptional place to live and to retire, and it continues to reinforce our standing as an age-friendly county. Number 2, we're asking you for the funds needed for the needs assessment that Lynn's mentioned. It'll determine how the closing of University Rehab in particular will impact the quantity and quality of nursing home care in Champaign County. The study, which CU Public Health has already agreed to do, will assess the current and future skilled nursing needs in the county and the economic impact of having viable alternatives available for our residents, regardless of their socioeconomic circumstances. Many of us have the ability probably to pay for a private situation, and we will not, well, we'll rely on some Medicare, but we won't have to rely on Medicaid. This particularly hits those people who have no choice, therefore no control over their lives, and they get sent off someplace else where their family and friends, who also do not have the resources, can't go and visit them. Those are some of the folks we're trying to help. So we ask that you designate also the county executive or someone from the county board to work as a liaison with us as we come up with these wonderful solutions we know we can do. We know from our discussions with many of you that you agree with us, that it is a crisis that we have to be concerned with. And so we want to ask for your help to help us help the residents of Champaign County and to continue to be an age-friendly community for all of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Fran Damaris.
Sorry, I see it now. My name is Fran Damaris. I've lived my entire life in Champaign, and as a child, I had wonderful experiences with older friends who spent time at Champaign County Nursing Home. I also served for 10 and a half years at Champaign National Bank as a trust officer there, and was able to see my clients go into that facility in the custodial area, and then as time went on, move forward in extra care until they could live out their lives with friends and people that surrounded them. That's the history of our city and county. That's the history that we have. And we need to find a way to build on that and bring it back. I'm not certain I have any ideas about how that can happen, but I want to make certain that I'm clear that the situation that we're involved with is untenable. I'm sort of shocked that we're not suing this guy who's been in it from the get-go only for himself. He's managed to close down nursing homes left and right, shifting people around, and now finally tells us we don't have a choice, and he's going to do something that we aren't going to allow. Who the heck does he think he is? We have a very viable community here. We can take care of people from the youngest ages to the oldest ages, but we want to do it in a way that speaks to the integrity of our community. And so I just want to reiterate all the things I've heard from Joan and Liz and Peggy Patton, who I knew when my little boy, who's now the father of 4, was in her nursery school class. Trust me when I tell you, we can do this, but we've got to have some support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dottie Vera Wise.
Sorry, I can't find it.
Good evening. It's good to see everybody here. I'm Dottie Vera Wise, MD, sometimes known as Doc Dot. I'm a family physician, retired now for 10 years, and I've had a lot of different interactions with nursing homes from different positions, sometimes being in the hospital and being delighted that an insurance contact person said, we can put that patient in a nursing home that can do rehab. And I say, yay, and I'm so glad that they were going to be getting the care that they need. Or being frustrated when we were backed up with people in the hospital that couldn't get out because there wasn't a space. I've also worked at a county health department in San Mateo County, California, and doing some of the infectious disease interactions with nursing homes, and seeing how they would cooperate on taking all the steps needed to decrease the chance of infection as there was a flu outbreak or a norovirus outbreak and all those other kinds of things. I've also dealt with my parents in the times that they needed help, and the whole constellation of the different services, the home nursing care, the hospice care, the rehab that my father went to. And he liked it so much he thought he was on a ship, on a cruise ship. This was in his later years when he was not always well oriented to what was going on, but he felt that way. And so I think that there are ways to feel really optimistic about what can be done to provide those services that are very important. we need comprehensive planning, as has been described by some people here, and we have the people and the organizations in the community to do that. There's the university, there's Carle Hospital and OSF, there's family services, somebody mentioned. There are a lot of provider organizations that can do those things. We need to remember to get input from all the different segments of the community that use those services, both the families whose parents or loved ones are in a nursing home, and also the people themselves that go in and the ones who've been able to come out and tell the experiences and what really made a difference to them. And I did visit the county nursing home one time, obviously a long time ago, and there were people coming in from the community to lead singing, and people really seemed to be in a community setting that was helpful to them. And that's such an important part of the health. I'm now a member of the Urbana-Champaign Friends meeting, the Quaker meeting that's just up the Art Bartell Road. I think is that way north, at the far end of it, just across the street from it. And we have several members who are in nursing homes, and they're all beyond the county limits because of all the reasons that people have mentioned. And so for the people from the Quaker meeting who are maintaining contact with them, it is that terrible, it's not a terrible drive, it's really a pretty drive up to Gibson City, but it's a long drive. And so I think dealing with all that, and see it as a positive opportunity. We shouldn't be here, and I agree with holding the current owner of the nursing home building accountable, and accountable for figure out what the monetary damage is that he did to our community, and hold him accountable for that. And so I am both distressed. I put out the sign saying our seniors are not for sale, back when the nursing home issue was being considered. But I think it's really important that we look for the positive opportunities here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy Emanuel.
Hi, I'm Kathy Emanuel. Thank you for letting us come here and talk today. I am bowled over by the support that we have here, and we're not going to have everybody come up here and talk. I know you'll be happy to hear that, but it's been amazing the kind of response we've gotten, which I think just indicates how important this is. So I'm Kathy Emanuel. I've been a resident of Champaign County a long time, and I'm familiar with the need for long-term care, both on a personal and professional level. Professionally, I worked for 40 years for each of the hospitals here locally, and in each case as their vice president of strategy. I also consulted a couple years for a long-term care facility based out of Bloomington, Illinois. They owned 20 homes in the state. I served on and chaired for a while the advisory board for the Champaign County Nursing Home, and I was on the committee appointed by the county when the nursing home was sold to take a look at that. Personally, I searched for and obtained long-term care for my husband, both in Chicago and Urbana. But if I were trying to do that for him today, the services would not be available for him. I have a friend who's a 77-year-old friend whose son was discharged from Carle after open heart surgery and stroke, and the only place that could provide the services that he needed, because he's a complex care patient, was a rehabilitation long-term care facility in Indianapolis. So my 77-year-old friend has to drive over 3 days a week, not just to visit his son, but he's making healthcare decisions. That doesn't make sense to me. But and I just want to reiterate, as was already stated by Joan, we are not interested in the county owning or operating a nursing home. That's not what we're about here today. What we do think is that the county board could help join with other community leaders, healthcare leaders, cities, to bring together the thought process and resources to create something in our community that we don't have. and we think the county does have a role in trying to protect their senior citizens. I'm here on behalf of what's called Advocates for Nursing Home Care, and that's, many of those people are represented here behind me. I want to thank, this was started by a small group of people who were worried about getting long-term care for themselves or their loved ones either immediately or in the distant future. And there's a couple I'd just like to quickly thank because you cannot imagine the amount of time and energy and effort and resources they put into this. There's Susan Schnur, Holly Jordan, Kathy Vance, Janice Sherbert, who spoke, Lee Estabrook, Lori Reynolds, Lynn Barnes, who spoke, Joan Dixon, who spoke, as well as Claudia Lenhoff and Belden Fields. And I really thank them for making this an agenda for the topic of our community. If you're wondering if there really is a need beyond anecdotal evidence, there is. I can confirm that if you look at the Illinois Department of Public Health, which did an inventory in 2021, they use the demographics of the community and say what's needed in terms of long-term care beds. They said we needed 721 beds. We didn't have that at that time. We had a slight deficit. Now that University Rehab is closed, and they are our largest facility in our community, 243 beds, now that they've closed and Clark Lindsay is downsizing by the end of this year from 105 beds to 49 beds, we will only have 411 beds of the 721 that the state says we need. We'll be at a 40% deficit for the services for our elderly. And you have to say, well, is this happening everywhere? It's not. In the state of Illinois, long-term care is a hard service to do in the state of Illinois because of our Medicaid reimbursement. But the state of Illinois has a 17% excess. It's our community, Champaign County, that's got a 40% deficit. I don't know why that is happening, but I think it's something that we don't want to continue. But the need is for more than just beds. It's for quality beds, and it's for some innovative services. We have 5 facilities, 5 licensed long-term care facilities. 2 of them are rated by Medicare, and Medicare does a 1 to 5 star rating, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. They do it for all licensed nursing homes. 2 of our 5 are rated as 1. One of our facilities is 1 star. One of our facilities, University Rehab, wasn't even rated. There's a warning sign that this says, this facility is not rated due to a history of serious health issues. We have 1 facility that's 3 star and 1 facility that's 4 star, but those facilities are the smallest facilities, and one of them is Meadowbrook, which is going to close. We can do better than this, and we're here to ask you to join us and some other community leaders. Public Health is on boards to do a need assessment. Carl has said already committed to participating in a community endeavor, and we're asking you to do the same. Thanks for letting us be here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. This concludes public participation. All right, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Carter.
Carter, second. Michaels. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Oh, excuse me, that is a roll call. Thank you, Kyle. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Michaels.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez. Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton. Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Banish Thiernot.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
Ingram.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Communications from the board. Good. Mr. Patterson.
All right, I actually had 2. First, want to acknowledge that the Illinois Comptroller, Susanna Mendoza, honored several LGBTQ plus Illinoisans who've shown leadership in the state. It was 5 individuals, and one of those individuals was Champaign County Sheriff Dustin Harmon. According to Mendoza, Harmon is one of 5 openly LGBTQ plus elected sheriffs in the country and the only openly gay man. The other item, I've got a letter from Belden Fields that wanted it read tonight, but he could not be here. I write you from a room in Meadowbrook Nursing Home. I came here after breaking an arm in many places in the elbow. Then I started getting a series of mini strokes. Now I am getting therapy while I wait for carotid artery surgery on the 27th. I fully support the position paper that will be presented to the county board by the advocates for nursing home care. I understand how important nursing home care is. When my mother got wonderful care at the Champaign County Nursing Home many years ago, while you and I fought to save that institution and became chair of Friends of Champaign County Nursing Home. Now we see what a disaster its loss was. After 3 months of nursing home and therapeutic care, I realize even more how essential it is to have sufficient local access to nursing home care. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Ezra.
It's been a year or two at least, I think, since I've made any comment about this, but if you're driving out and about in the county nowadays, it's not growing like it should due to lack of rain, but the corn is still growing, and it's to the point now it can hide vehicles approaching from different directions at intersections, especially if you're in a car that sits low. There's very few of you that that are here now that were on the board when it actually happened, but early on, I truly forget the date, what year it was, but it was like August, September. I was coming into caucus before a county board meeting, and I rolled a lady in her minivan probably at least twice. I don't know because I didn't see it because I had my airbag in front of me. When she slow rolled, you could say, an intersection where she had the stop sign and I had the right-of-way. I'm sure what I know about it, she was familiar with that intersection because she was headed home from work heading to Sydney. Well, she didn't fully stop and look and make sure that this coast was clear. So just a reminder to people, it's that time of year now. If you have a stop sign or a yield sign, please make sure that it's clear to go across those intersections. I don't want to be the one hitting you, and I don't want you to hit me. And I'm sure no one wants to be involved in that either. So just obey the signage out there in the country, especially, like I say, with the crops up now to where you cannot clearly see at intersections. Thanks.
Thank you, Aaron. Anyone else? Mr. Harper.
I don't know how many of you have heard. After a lot of consideration and 10.5 years here and 43 consecutive years of serving on boards, either locally or statewide boards, the July 20th meeting will be my last here at Champaign County. I've enjoyed my 10.5 years. I've learned a lot, but I'm to the age. I got grandkids running around. I'm still actively farming, and I have decided to call it quits, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Ms. Carter.
I'm calling to ask all constituents to please notify the city of Champaign and the city of Urbana about a curfew that needs to be enforced with our young people. This is just the beginning of our summer, and we've already seen tragedy. I think it's time for parents to stand up and be accountable for the things that our youth are doing in our community. I think this should be enforced locally, the city of Urbana, and also the city of Champaign. So I'm asking all constituents to please contact your representatives, your chief of police, your mayors. There needs to be a curfew enforced for anyone under the age of 18 in Champaign County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Straub.
I just wanted to quickly give heartfelt thanks to all the folks who reached out to their county board members in the last couple days, and those folks who came, particularly those who spoke on their personal experience having themselves or loved ones in nursing home care. Many of us on the board, I know, just from personal conversations, are very familiar with the physical, emotional, and financial toll those decisions can take. And it's just really notable that folks are bringing some of their most painful experiences here to us to advocate for other people. So thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Anyone else? Hearing none, we will move on. We have a presentation from the Economic Development Corporation. Carly, you want to come forward? Just key the mic so that you've got a live mic. I think you push the button on the page. There you go.
All right, everyone good? All right, thank you again for the opportunity. We just wanted to come back and say again, thank you for the ARPA funds that you dedicated for various efforts that we came and chatted with you about previously. We had 3 different proposals that we've been working on. 2 of them are fully launched. 1 is currently in process. So we just wanted to come back and just do a thank you and a very quick update on those programs. So first, I have Galen here with me from Justine Peterson, so we can give a brief update on the COVID-19 Recovery Champaign County Small Business Microloan Fund that we worked with, of course, the county and Justine Peterson to launch based on the need for additional capital deployment in our community for small businesses, existing small businesses, and those who wanted to start new businesses. So just a quick summary of that. We actually launched the fund on March 13th of this year. The lending partners that came to the table to work with us were PNC Bank as well as Busey Bank. We had a significant initial response within the first week between our office and other partners. We fielded over 400 inquiries about it just to learn more and for people to be able to go talk about it and spread the word to others. And we did things like host open office hours, one-on-one sessions, informational webinars, stuff like that, which we continue to this day. So we sent out a joint press release, which got a lot of coverage, but I just want to give a kudos, obviously, to all of you and Justine Peterson, who we're working with to deploy this capital that is a critical need for our community, and to recognize them because they're about to be named, or I think it's been announced, the SBA Microlender of the Year in the state of Illinois. Now, specific to the funds of the actual stats since we've launched earlier this year.
Great. Before I actually go through the stats, I want to make clear that I believe that this can have national attention for Champaign County. We're a community development financial institution, which is a nonprofit lending Department of Treasury designated entity. And there's about 1,200 of such entities nationally, and only a few have been able to successfully launch a loan fund like this here in Champaign. And I actually think what's happening here in Champaign with the fund could potentially serve as a national model. So hats off to all of you, and I want to shower accolades for the success of the program. In terms of the true data, we capitalized $2 million with Busey Bank and PNC, Busey being the lead lending institution. Of that $2 million, we've deployed over $700,000, about $720,000 since March. And so we're on track to exhaust the fund, if you will, probably in the coming months. But what does that mean? It's not over. It forever revolves, and there's other dollars that will come into play. Additional bank dollars may play a role, but there's always philanthropy. We have private investment. We also receive dollars from the CDFI fund, which is the Department of Treasury program, as well as dollars designated for certain demographic groups, the disabled, Black-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. So we've deployed $720,000 roughly. 27 businesses have been assisted. 81% of those are BIPOC, that is Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and or new Americans. 52% have been women-owned. Specifically, 30% of the women-owned businesses have actually been BIPOC or new Americans. There's been a focus on wraparound services. We staff a full-time employee at the hub, if you will, of the EDC. The SBDC is literally across the hall and have been an amazing and robust partner. And that's exactly the kind of critical mass we were hoping to create by partnering with Carly at the EDC and physically being present in that office. So again, thank you, and it doesn't stop here. It continues to grow, and I'm excited about the fact of parading around on a national level the great work going on here in Champaign County.
Thank you, Galen. All right, any questions maybe for Galen? He's got to hit the road. Okay. Oh,
I just wanted to say thank you for the fine effort that you've done on this, and this is building on some previous work that has been, foundational work that's been done, and thank you for coming and for the good work that you're doing in our community.
thank you. Thanks, Galen. Okay, another program that is currently in process is the Small Business Support Program. So this is one that we're currently working through and developing, but we wanted to be very strategic about the small business support. As you know, there's been a significant amount of support programs that have rolled out at the state and the federal level, so we wanted to be really strategic, knowing funds that were continuing and about to come, as well as funds that are about to be rolled out now. So there's a lot of grants that are sort of wrapping up now. There's another program that's going to launch soon. So the state is going to continuously deploy some additional dollars. So obviously, a lot of different types of programs have been rolled out, and there's good lessons learned that we can use to implement into these future small business support programs so that we're actually building a really successful program. But one of the things that we wanted to do, sort of just given where everybody's at right now post-pandemic, is actually talk to a lot of small business owners. So we've been hosting a lot of small business roundtables across all the community, all different types of businesses and industries, to really get their input and feedback about where exactly they're at now, what would be the most helpful, what they've been able to utilize that was helpful, so that we can build a really successful program. So that's currently in the works, but we are working on it, and I just wanted to let you guys know that. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump to the last topic, but also ask Terry from Experience Champaign-Urbana to come up here with me. Okay, so the third project that we focused on was as part of our talent attraction options or programs, specifically the community job application. So this is something that our most recent launch was April 12th, and this community job application is a really sort of groundbreaking concept that we've deployed, building on the success of other talent attraction programs. So this program allows newcomers to share information and then get information back, and their information shared with employers, but it's totally customized to our community. And so we're really working very closely with local employers to be able to deploy this program, while also sharing important information about what new residents would be seeking to learn about as they make a decision to come to our community to live and work.
So the job application is a very seamless process and is very low barriers for people that are interested in learning about our community. It's 3 short steps and forms. The first one is really just getting basic information, that person's name. Are they already familiar with our community? Are they interested in coming here? And what's their time frame? Or are they already a resident here? So once they submit that, they move on to the next step, which is about jobs. And so they tell us what type of job they're looking for, what industry, what type of level, and then they have the opportunity to upload their resume. And once they complete that, then they have the opportunity to let us know what they want to know about our community. Is it volunteer opportunities? Is it family resources? Is it disability resources? And all of these forms, sync directly with our other applications like our CU Job Board, as well as our Champaign Welcome Crew. And once these forms are completed, they then go into our system, as Carly mentioned, to then be delivered directly to our talent attraction recruiters network, as well as to our Champaign Welcome Crew, so that we're constantly hitting them with messages so they choose our community.
So just looking at the stats since we launched in April, so we've had 68 leads come through the program, and 99% of those leads are those who live outside of our community, considering our community as an option to relocate. 41 of them have uploaded their resume, and that's been shared with local employers, of which we have 53 currently signed up to receive the talent roster every single Friday. Another aspect of this that is really helpful for us to know between our 2 organizations and then our joint talent attraction efforts efforts is it's giving us a lot of data just about where, what people are looking for and how we can message certain marketing. So as you can see, we track things like the most desired job types that matches up to our job board, community interest, and then things like where people are looking or coming from. So outside of Illinois, the top states that we're getting interest from are California, Florida, Indiana, and Missouri.
And I do want to note on that in the past couple of weeks, we've had an increase specifically in two topics, people coming from the states of Florida and people that are also seeking a community that is friendly to LGBTQIA. So we're very thrilled to see those people finding our community so we can help them find a home here. I want to run down really quickly how this all works together, because from an outsider's perspective, it's a very seamless process, and it was built that way intentionally. So we're getting ready to start doing some marketing for this. With these stats that Carly has provided, we have not been able to do marketing yet, but we will be doing that soon, and so we expect these numbers to grow tremendously. So once those marketing campaigns are out there, you're going to see people coming through the community job application. They're going to upload their resume. They're going to get connected with the Chambana Welcome Crew. They're going to get placed in a local job here in the community. They're going to take part in one of our New to See You mixers that we host every quarter. They're going to find their place in their community. They're going to get connected. They're going to share their positive experience, and then they're going to tell everybody else that they know. And so that's how we're going to continue to build this program and continue to build people that are engaged in this community.
Totally seamless for the user, but a lot of magic happening in between to make it all work together. So just real quick to highlight how these things work together. I know we talked a little bit about this before, but we have this recruiters network, 200 plus local HR and recruiter professionals amongst employers across the county. Those are really those that we're serving with this information so that people can find jobs easily and we can get those jobs filled amongst our local employers. So that's really sort of the master list that we use to build all this programs and constantly get feedback so that we can make the necessary changes so that all of these programs are successful. So we're constantly asking employers, what's working? What do we need to change? What do we need to add to our forms and everything like that? We also have our amazing Chambana Welcome Crew, of which some folks in this room are community ambassadors. We have over 50 community ambassadors now, and if anyone's interested, let us know, because we have a lot of people coming through the program. But we just surpassed a major goal of bringing 100 people officially through the program since we've launched. And this is a really important step to be able to have this infrastructure so that something like the community job application can exist.
And I mentioned our New to See You mixers, so just a quick update on those. We've just finished our first year of having mixers, and we're getting ready to start year two. They've been incredibly well attended, usually rounding about 80 to 100 people per event. Recently at a Friday Night Live event, I saw several of the people who've attended the mixers all there together, which really just told me that this is working. People are making connections and finding ways to enjoy our community together. So our next one is coming up on July 10th at Riggs. We invite any of you to come and attend and just see, the types of connections that are being formed there.
So speaking of infrastructure that needs to exist for this to all happen, in February of this year, we relaunched a new job board that has a lot of features and enhancements from our old one that makes our lives a lot easier, but most importantly, the employers' lives a lot easier too. So it has things like automatic polls. It allows users to sort by different things like job type, industry, and location. For us, it gives us the ability to track this data of how people are looking for information so that we can run specific campaigns. All of this is linked throughout the community job application. So since we've launched, we've had over 20,000 additional job clicks that is going directly to local employer sites. So we're getting a lot of activity through the job board, and we've had a really great response from employers. We launched with just under 100, and now we're at 140 and continuously growing employers on the site. And Champaign County is one of them, of course.
And really for the next steps, we're going to, as I mentioned, start marketing our campaigns out there. And so we're looking forward to having the opportunity to spread the message of this community in our surrounding communities, and now that we have some of this data already, we know some of the places that we need to target. We're also looking to grow this program and get more people involved and get engaged and really do some build your own incentive programs. You might have heard incentives through other communities where they're offering like $15,000 to move there. That's not what we mean when we talk about incentives. We're thinking about building programs that make sense to the people that are coming here. You know, maybe they need a bus pass, or they are interested in being part of one of the health facilities at one of the park districts. So building up those types of services so that it really makes sense to what benefits them for their quality of life. So we look forward to building support for this program so we can continue to offer these programs.
We've also been hitting the road and doing a lot of employer education and training. So since we launched the community job application, we've done about 15 different just continuous trainings that we're going to continue throughout the rest of this year. We're also going into employers, especially large employers that have multiple units or departments, to do individual customized training, as well as relevant groups that are sort of working in or touching the talent attraction space. So the Champaign County Association of Realtors, the Central Illinois Human Resource Group, just really making sure that everyone has information about this so that they can utilize it. And so, like I said, we can continue to adjust to meet the needs of those who are actively bringing people to our community. And that's it.
Thank you for all your good work. Board questions? Ms. Van Sterenot.
Thank you. I'm curious as to whether or not you're advertising Champaign County as a place for remote workers to live, even if they aren't maybe necessarily employed here, and how you are going about that?
Yes, so that is going to be a part of our marketing efforts that we're going to be launching over the coming months. We actually have a spot on the community job application where you can notify if you're interested in remote work. That matches up to the job board. So Champaign County employers that have remote positions, all of those remote positions are included on the job board. So there's matchmaking that's happening between those. We've also just had a lot of remote workers coming to our new to CU mixers that have given us a lot of good feedback, and that's a particular audience that we're going to start building more customized programs and events around. And then we're also just sort of constantly working to understand from employers, you know, what's on the horizon as far as the amount of remote jobs that you're going to have available so that we can sort of tailor and time it with everything that we're trying to roll out.
Ms. Locke.
As someone who has been a trailing spouse of an academic, I would have loved this once upon a time. But that is actually a question that I have. You've gotten these great responses already without having marketed at all. When you're marketing, are you going to consider the university hiring season and ask them to please let the spouse know who's going to be dragged along? Send your resume here. And then we can recruit them better this way as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have loved that. It took me a long time to learn to love it here. I love it now.
Yeah. So we actually work directly with Dana Cohen, who's the Director of Faculty Recruitment at the university. She oversees the Dual Career Program, which is the program that is specific to placing trailing significant others at other employers in the community. Dana is actually our partner in crime on the Champaign Welcome Crew, so we're constantly working with them. We're also doing a lot of integration into new faculty hiring and trailing significant others. We're doing things like attending new faculty orientation to be there to answer questions about the community, specifically jobs. Last year we did our first annual bus tour where we took new residents of faculty and their trailing significant others around the community. So we're really starting to build we needed to launch all of this first, and now we're working to add on for specific groups and specific needs that we're starting to see trends in, and the university is absolutely front and center in that.
And not just for new faculty, PhD students as well. I have to tell you, that was how I got here. I was a PhD program. One last question. You said you're looking for lots of ambassadors. I know I have inside info, but can you tell the group what specific people? I know you want everybody,
Yes.
but are there certain groups that we actually have more of a need for?
Yes, well, as I mentioned, we're getting a lot of people in the LGBTQ community, so people from that community would be fantastic to serve as resources as those people are coming here. We were also seeing a lot of young professionals come to the area, so a lot of young professionals. It's been less on the young families, but I do anticipate that happening. And surprisingly, we're also getting quite a few retirees, so it would be really great to get some people that are retired that are interested in sharing their experiences. Lynn Barnes is one of our ambassadors, and she had a really great experience with somebody who had moved here as a retiree and has really helped shape their later years in life, and it's been fantastic. So that being said, we will welcome anybody. It's fantastic to have a range of people, but those are our specific needs right now.
Mr. Ingram.
I want to thank Ms. Locke for kind of stealing my question. But to follow up a little bit on that, as a person who's also an ambassador, it is, I know that none of us have time to do anything else, but it's not too time consuming. And I've had a really good time speaking with a few different people who were thinking about moving here, including last week, somebody who is 78 years old. And we got on famously. But it's been a really cool experience to, I think basically everybody on here has some sort of deep appreciation or love of the community or the county. And you can speak pretty well, especially those of you who've lived here longer, about some of the resources that are available, and everybody coming to it from a different space. These questionnaires allow them to kind of say, oh, this person's kind of asking about this. I know that person, our ambassador that does that, knows a little bit about it. So I thought that was, I think they do a very good job about in that regard. Also, yes, the trailing spouses thing or the trailing significant others, I had never heard that phrase so many times as I have a couple of different times when I've been to meetings there. So yes, they're very focused on that, and just kind of the other things that just kind of naturally bring people to our community. So if anybody's looking for something where you just might, it's like having a pen pal a little bit, who just wants to know all about Champaign-Urbana or Champaign County. But it is a lot of fun, and it's a pretty great program, and I thank both of you and everybody there for your efforts.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for coming out and for all the work you've done. I'm the finance chair of the board, so I really appreciate the expeditious way that you've been rolling out these ARPA projects. I think that that's really impressive. And I also, just two other things. I wanted to shout out specifically Samantha and Chris, who really pushed for us to invest some of this ARPA money into small businesses and led that charge and helped us figure out how to do all of that. It was a big monumental task, and you all clearly did an amazing job, and I think we funded what we needed to fund, and the results have far exceeded my expectations. I also think, though, we as a board need to think a little bit about how do we continue this momentum, and how do we continue to have the county being an advocate for small business and talent recruitment and retention in our county. And as ARPA is winding down, I mean, I know it doesn't seem like it is if you look at this agenda, but as it's winding down, as we go into 2024, I think we need to start having conversations about how we can assess what we've done and what are some next steps for the future. And then just as a point of privilege, I've decided, Mr. Harper, that I reject your proposal to resign, and I'm going to lead a motion to formally make that so later in the meeting.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else. Thank you very much for your good work.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Ingram.
Okay. Ingram, second.
Second,
Lockshin. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, standing committees, Facilities Committee, the summary of action is posted in the agenda. Areas of responsibility, summary of action taken June 13th. Committee of the Whole, Finance, Policy and Personnel, also on the agenda. On to new business. Adoption of Resolution 2023-145, authorizing payment of claims. Can I have a motion? Motion from Vanish Theranos, second by Locke. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item B, resolution number 2023-146, purchases not following purchase policy. Can I have a motion? Finish there or not?
Second, Carter.
Second. Second, Carter. Discussion. Go ahead, Ms. Michaels.
I have a real hard time with this one. First off, we're a public entity. We have professionals that are doing a job. You never make a check out to cash. At the very least, there could have been an error of the signing. I can understand when people get confused with that. However, and maybe make it to the fund or something like that. But this is abominable that our county would allow that department to write a check for cash for over $16,000. Now, I understand there are checks and balances, but people, I worked in that world and that's how money walks out the door. And this is very, very wrong. And I really want it on the record that this will not happen again. I'm just really upset about this.
Other comments? Our auditor is here if anybody wants to field any, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did have
Furtado.
I share your concern. I did have an opportunity to communicate briefly with the treasurer, and she's out of town, in other words, she would have been here. She said that she'll get us a more detailed response. My understanding is she has already had a conversation with the bank and been like, this is never going to happen again. So I think that she's in agreement with you on that. But yeah, yeah.
Right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion passes. Moving on to items C and D, Member Thorsland is going to handle these two resolutions.
Yeah, thank you. Steve, Aaron Esri and I and John Hall in the department decided to cancel the meeting for ELOC because we had only recreation and entertainment licenses. So right now I would move to approve the recreation and entertainment licenses for the Fisher Community Fair, 226 East Sangamon Avenue, Fisher, for the dates of 7/9/23 and 7/15/23. And, if I may make this an omnibus for the two, also the recreation and entertainment license for the Taylor Feld Camp for the Demo Derby at the Champaign County Fairgrounds, 1302 North Kohler Avenue, Urbana, for the dates of 9/15/23 and 9/16/23.
Second.
Okay, we've got a second. That was the motion, so we got a second. Thank you. These were the only items on ELOC. The sheriff has signed off on both, if you're familiar with recreation and entertainment licenses. And Mr. Hall is here if you have questions on any of this. If not, Steve, you're in charge of the vote.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Eric. All right, moving on. Adoption of resolution number 2023-147, approving budget amendment BUA 2023/0676, Fund 2109, Indoor Climate Resource Agency, Department 932, Indoor Climate Resource Agency, increased appropriation $5,280,000, increased revenue $5,280,000. Reason amendment needed to administer the IHWAP training through the existing ICRT team. Do I have a motion? Motion Vanish Theranot. Second, Locke. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, adoption of sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Do we need to do a roll call for that?
It's not listed as a roll call, but the amount is, let's err on the side of caution, even though it's not listed that way. Could the clerk please read the roll for adoption of Resolution E?
Michaels.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers. Sexton. Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Vanish Thiernot.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Harper. Yes.
Ingram.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Kyle. Moving on, adoption of resolution number 2023-148, approving budget transfer BUA 2023-06-296, Fund 2075, Regional Planning Commission, Department 100, Regional Planning Commission, Fund 2060, RPC Police Training, Department 100, Regional Planning Commission appropriation amount $253,666, revenue amount $253,666. Reason to move revenue and appropriations out of Fund 2075 to the newly created Fund 2060 to allow the flexibility to create the financials required for the external audit. Do I have a motion? Lockshin, second. Cowart, excuse me. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we want to make this a roll call as well, do the amount?
Yeah, let's make this a roll call as well, please. Thank you.
Michaels. Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Sexton. Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Rogers. Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Vanish Thiernot.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Harper. Yes.
Ingram.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item G, adoption of a resolution number 2023-149, approving intergovernmental agreement between the County of Champaign and Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District. Can I have a motion? Moved by Esri and by Patterson. Discussion. Go ahead, Aaron.
Just note that we have Mimi and Rita both here if there's questions.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Can we just thank them for being here this long? And
Oh, they'll be
having
here
no
for
questions?
a while longer, I think. All right, adoption of resolution number 2023-150, approving vehicle lease agreement between the County of Champaign and the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District. Can I have a motion?
So move, Carter.
So moved by Carter, second. Second by Taylor. Any questions? Sure. Rita, could you and Mimi come up and update us on a few changes?
I was just wondering if you could share with us some of the updates that Ms. Rita shared with us during the Quats meeting this week or last week?
That's for the next one,
Oh.
the next item.
Okay.
Well, you can just remain seated there. You'll be in a perfect spot then.
Okay.
All right, all in favor of adoption of this resolution for the vehicle lease agreement, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, Rural Transit Advisory Group, CARES funding reallocation.
Can you turn on the,
Yes. Probably you remember that last year we brought here the CARES funding, and we prepared a grant application that was submitted to IDOT that included funding to install bus shelters in Rantoul, and also to purchase cameras for installation on the buses that we have for C-cards. The cameras were purchased and were installed in the buses, and we have been working for about 14 months on getting the process going for the installation of the bus shelters in Rantoul. We have been working with IDOT, and we have been working with the staff of the village of Rantoul through the process that need to be followed for using the federal funding for the installation of the bus shelters. We identified the locations for the installation of the bus shelters. We started with 10 locations. 3 of the locations were private entities, and we work with the village for them to communicate with those 3 private owners to secure the right-of-way at those locations, because when you are using federal funds, in order to build any facility on any place, the right-of-way need to be, we need to set an agreement with Champaign County to be able to build any facility on that land. Then we spend a lot of time trying to convince those private entities to have the agreement set up to donate, not donate, just to have that agreement for the right-of-way to install the buses on their land. We couldn't get that in place. Then we dropped those 3 locations, and we work with the village to have the agreement with the county for the other 7 locations. That was done. We worked with the state attorney, and that was done. We have an agreement already in place with the village and the county for those 7 locations to build the 7 bus shelters in Rantoul. Then we started the process with IDOT about what to do. They asked us to put in place, and that's where the project got cumbersome. We needed to do an RFP to work with a consultant to do an architectural and engineering, study for the bus shelters. And in the process of doing that, they also told us that we have to go through the NEPA process, which is a long and cumbersome process. And also, they told us that we need to do, first they told us an RFP, then they changed it to an RFQ, and ended up being something else for an RFP for the construction of the pads, where the concrete pads where the bus shelters were going to be located. And after that, they told us that the RFP also have to be done jointly for the bus shelters. And we told them, how can we do that if the bus shelters are going to be acquired by other company that is not the same company that will be building the concrete pads? Because there are specific companies that will be are the ones building the bus shelters and delivering those bus shelters. Then they went back and said, well, there is a possibility that you can do 2 RFPs, but that process, all this process need to be done through IDOT. You cannot do that process through the county. You need to go through the bid processing through IDOT, which will take longer. Then Doing all that process, we are in June, and the CARES funding expire in June of '24. Then we had a serious conversation with them and say, hey, we are in June, and we only have 12 months to go through the process of doing an RFP to hire a consultant to do the architectural and engineering, and for that, we need to go through IDOT, which will take probably 3 months to select the consultant. Once we select the consultant, we have to wait for the consultant to do all the process to have the design done, and then we have to go through the process that probably will be another 3 months to get that work done, to do the concrete pads, and then to get there, we need to do the RFP, and the RFP has to go through IDOT and through a bidding process that will take probably another 3 months. Then we are in December, and at that time, you are not able to build the concrete pads because it's winter. Then we need to wait until probably April to start building the concrete pads. And we will not be able to get the concrete pads, 7 concrete pads done, and the bus shelters delivered and in place by June. And to do the bidding for the bus shelters, we have to go through the process with IDOT, which will take another 3 months, and we need to get the bus shelters delivered and installed by June 24th. Is that possible? And they said, probably not. Then can you give us an extension? And they said, well, you know, it's CARES funding, it's federal funding. We don't have the ability to give you an extension. Then the reality was like, you will not be able to get the project done. You will not be able to get the project done. Then we have been working for 14 months through all this process, and we will not be able to get this done. Then I contacted the mayor of Rantoul last week and let him know, because they have been working with us for these 14 months. And he said, yeah, I came to the realization too that after all that we have gone through, that we were not going to be able to get it done. Then I completely understand. Then we talked to the RTAG members at the last meeting that we had. We explained the same that I'm telling you today. And at that time, we were not completely certain about all this, but they were on board. And after talking to IDOT seriously, then we decided that there wasn't possible. Then we met with MTD, because there is another issue going on. We have received several grants since 2019 for buses, and we have been waiting for 6 buses since 2019. But due to all the supply chain issues, we don't have a firm time when we'll be getting those buses. And we are running into problems with the current buses that we have. Many of them has passed their useful life. They are older than 6 years, and the maintenance problems are piling up. Then we talk to MTD and say, hey, probably it would be better for us to allocate the CARES funding that we have to rehabilitate some of those buses and allocate that funding for maintenance, because we really don't know, even though we have 6 buses that were supposed to be delivered to us beginning in 2021, we really don't know when we'll be getting those buses. And if we want to continue providing the service that we have been providing, we have to do something about it. Then the reality is that as much as we wanted to build those shelters in Rantoul, because it's based on the surveys that we have done, it's something that the community is asking for, we have been able to do it, sadly. And talking to IDOT, we learned that none of the communities that intended to use the CARES funding for any infrastructure project were able to use the funding for that purpose, due to all the cumbersome process using federal funding based on the FTA regulations and requirements. None. At least we were able to purchase cameras. Yeah. But that's it.
Thank you for your hard work. We really appreciate it.
Aaron, go ahead.
And I think you made the right call.
I was just going to myself say thank you to you two, Mimi and Rita, for your work on this. I know it's a disappointment, especially after all the work you did. But I do think you've truly came up with a plan B, and especially one that can truly be, enacted and use the money instead of totally losing it. And for that, I applaud you. And I guess we've learned, especially the two of you and the others in your with staff that worked on this. But thanks again.
Diane.
Yeah, well, that's near and dear to my little neighborhood. But the question I'm asking to, and I am glad, because my first question was going to be, if I heard you correctly, that at least the CARES money will be used within our community, and that is a huge plus. But I wonder if there's something down the road or in the future that could still have the project of the bus terminals, if you call them, I can't remember, bus stations. If there's some other monies coming available, or if there's anything else you can see in the near future that could help with that.
Our idea is, and I hope we can do it, will not be done like what we were planning in 1 year to have 7 bus shelters, but our idea is to use the funding, the CARES funding, for operation and for maintenance. Then if that's the case, we hope that we can have some local funding available, shifting the funding the way that we have it. And then if we are able to free up some of the local funding that we have to build, to use it to build at least 1 bus shelter next year, then that's our intention. And because we are using local funding, then we will not be tied to the federal regulations, then we will not have to follow the NEPA process. We will not have to follow all those steps. Then we can do it like a local project and will be less costly because we don't have to do all that. And hopefully that will give us a good idea of how much it will cost. And then perhaps every year we can budget at least for 1 bus shelter. That would be the idea. We'll not be able to get all 7 in 1 year, but at least 1 per year will be something better than nothing.
And real quickly, I would hope that the village and also maybe some of the corporates that are located out there that have their employees using it, that maybe they would collaborate with having a couple of those done.
Hopefully.
Anyone else? Thank you so much. I share your disappointment in not being able to accomplish the end goal with all the work that you put into it. But as Diane put, at least we're utilizing the funding. That's the important part.
Believe me, we are more disappointed than anyone else.
I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item B, Community Violence Prevention Task Force, summary of action taken May 22nd, 2023 meeting. Kyle, why don't you go ahead? We can certainly do that. It's in the agenda packet. Adoption of resolution number 2023-151, approving ARPA funding for community violence prevention initiatives. Motion by Patterson, second by, I'm sorry, was that by Carter? Yes. Motion and a second. Discussion.
All right. So we have several funding recommendations that came from the task force. Kind of just briefly sort of run through them. The Chamber of Commerce I Read I Count program is a volunteer tutoring program with I believe right now it's just within the Champaign-Urbana schools, focusing on math and reading. The next one is CU Try, who actually, their director is here tonight, Karen Sims, the very impressive Karen Sims. And they do a little bit of everything when it comes to working with particularly people who have been affected by gun violence. I think they're one of the most effective organizations in town when it comes to specifically dealing with this issue. There's the Cunningham Township Bridge to Home. They had several different requests, included acquiring a apartment building for emergency transitional family shelter. That, I think it was the bulk of the request, and there's also different services for case management as well as utility assistance. This is a partial funding of their request, so the executive's office will need to work with them in regards to what the intergovernmental agreement will say the funds will be going towards. We have the East Central Illinois Building and Construction Trades proposal for a pre-apprenticeship program, particularly targeting people from minority groups. First Dollars H3 program, I think that most of us are familiar with that. This request was also less than the amount that they asked for. There had been some concerns about how quickly they've been able to get the money spent, and we don't want to be stuck in a situation where we're having to get money back from somebody or potentially losing the money because it's not spent in time. Muhammad Area Youth Club, they call it Macy, but I really think it's Mace. And that's for to expand the work with kids, particularly through the schools, and that's to expand to a middle school program. The next is the SLEEP program, which is something that I know Samantha and Chris have really worked hard on for probably a couple of years now, and getting that rolling. It sort of imitates a program that was done in Garden Hills by the city of Champaign, and this would be targeting Dobbins Downs as well as Scottswood. I wanted to say the other one, I'm not. And essentially be a program where it offers people with door or like the Ring doorbell, and I think as well as there's lighting, and was it the lighting that's front and back? Okay, and also like a yard light.
Exterior lighting, front and back, yard pole, and a video doorbell.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, that's that program. And then the next two are from the same organization. We had somebody who came and spoke about that earlier at the meeting who is still here. The Stand Down for Veterans would be a annual event that is sort of like a call out for veterans, particularly dealing with homelessness, to come out and they could be provided with different services. And then the VA Stop the Violence program is a much more comprehensive sort of case management and other services provided to veterans dealing with, I think, a variety of issues. This one was also partial funding. We had the unfortunate situation where we had, I think, nearly twice as many dollar amount requests than what we had available to allocate. And this was envisioned to sort of be kind of seed money for them to get the ball rolling on doing this type of program. We have the YWCA Strive program, which is a program geared towards technology literacy for people who are needing that to help them, get back into the workforce and survive in the modern world. And Vision to Succeed, that's something that we also funded in the past. We found that they were very successful, and they actually did not make a formal request. This was something that we kind of added on the fly because we were very satisfied with the results. And they work with youth, particularly focused on males, to help them develop into productive members of society. So that's the resolution.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
So first, I really appreciate the fact the committee was really, I think, fun, if that is an okay thing to say about a board committee, to work on, and I think we came up with a really good landscape that funds people at different points, you know, some focus on women, middle school, young children. I really appreciated that. The only one that I have concern about, and I will say Vision to Succeed, after we met, did ask us formally for money. So it's not like they don't want the money. They did ask us, it was just after our meeting, but they, out of the first round of money that we gave away, they're the only group that has fully spent all the money we gave. And I've heard from a lot of people, including Ms. Carter on the board, how successful their program has been. So I think Aaron championed them the first round, and so well done on that. The only one that I have concern on, and let me be clear, I don't have concern on the program. I just want to have a discussion about the ability or the continuation of the program, right? And that is the VA Stop the Violence. We had a lot of discussion within our board committee meeting about that if this is seed money, it needs to move to the Veterans Affairs Committee in order for them to take that on. And we've had a lot of discussion in the board about how we as a board are going to have to figure out how to fund that group because of the change in the state law tying how much money we allocate to our EAV. And that's something we're still working out. And I don't, in subsequent conversations since we've had this meeting, I don't know that that bridge is built yet. And I think that if we are going to fund this, we want to make sure that there is that bridge, right? Because otherwise we're funding a program that's just going to stop in 2024. And so I'm not at all advocating that we don't fund it. I'm just advocating that we pull that to July, and then at the July meeting, have a separate vote on that, where we could get, I believe, that we had our, Nicole came and said that she's reached out to the VAC, but they haven't had their meeting yet. I know they've had a lot of turnover. So maybe allowing them to all have the conversation so that we could have confidence that if we fund this seed, I said to her earlier, if we fund a seed, I want it to grow into a tree. I just don't want to fund a seed and then it just die under the ground, right? And I don't think that that's what's going to happen, but I do think we need to have that conversation to make sure that the VAC and them are going to work together so that we can, that we're funding something that's going to continue beyond 16 months.
So is that we're going to do a formal amendment then?
That is my proposal, that we amend that, and I want to be specific, for discussion at the July meeting. Like, I don't want to just amend it into the ether.
Okay. Got a motion, Ms. Michaels?
I will second that
You'll second
motion.
that motion?
But if I could also speak
Yes,
when you
please,
get
go
a
ahead.
chance? Oh, okay. Well, I concur with Ms. Furtado over there. I think that we have a very new group at our committee here with the county, the VA committee with the county. And I think having the past director, the current director, which is very, very new, and these other funds that will probably being received, they don't actually have a plan of action yet for all the funds that they will be receiving from us in the near future. Between that and Mr. Walker, which runs the Stop the Violence program, I believe if we can get all three of them to the table, which I'm willing to do or help with, that maybe we can have some collaboration, and therefore our VA committee will be much better prepared and able to have a resource that will help our veterans in our community. So I concur with Ms. Furtado, and I certainly think this is something we need to look at.
So is the motion then to hold off on funding that particular program until July? Is that the plan?
Until the July meeting or whenever that,
Okay,
if for
until
some
the
reason
July
they
meeting.
can't all get to the table. I know a lot of people travel in July. I'll say no later than August, because we want to allocate all of this money by August So no later than August.
Okay, all right. We've got a motion and a second. This is ARPA money, but we'll just, all in favor signify by saying aye to the amended. Voting on the amendment right now. I heard ayes, I haven't heard any nays. Anyone opposed to the, we'll view it as a friendly amendment? No, okay. All right, go ahead, Aaron.
Just further discussion about the committee, our committee that we had, the 7 of us. I don't know that I would say it was fun, but it wasn't, I mean, I just don't know. Well, I'm just going to be flat out. I don't know that coming for a meeting of any kind really in this building is fun, but it was definitely productive. We had good conversation. I don't know that any one of the 7 of us got, all the numbers exactly the way they would have put it. Was it only up to them? It was a good committee, and it was as fun as I will say it was as fun as a committee meeting could be, but I don't know that I would necessarily say it was truly fun.
That's not exactly, it's not exactly a ringing endorsement, but go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, maybe I have a better way of phrasing it. I will say, as somebody who's worked on the committee for the 2-year span here of the ARPA funding, I'm very proud to have worked on that committee with all of you. I think we were all able to have some very productive discussions, and I think what we've come up with is an excellent representation, as Stephanie said earlier, of different groups within our community. We're making sure that we're funding different areas, and I really appreciate having worked with all of you. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of passing the amended resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. American Rescue Plan Act, Kathy has stuck through this entire meeting for this point. I'm really glad she stuck with us. And she's going to give us an update. Thank you, Kathy.
Is that on? Okay. So we've included the regular memo summary of the status of the projects as well as the timeline and the revenue and expense status and projections. I wanted to note that next month we'll also be working on reporting again to the Department of Treasury. So we're currently working with many of these agencies on their payments, on their documentation, on their information for reporting. And processing expense requests and payment requests, and also collecting what we need for reporting. There's additional things that the Department of Treasury has continued to add along the way for reporting that we need to provide. And then we also, in addition to the resolution for the assistance to the Garden Hills projects, we're also currently in process of getting signatures on the Visit Champaign County Foundation contract. And then regarding the broadband projects, both BOLO and NextLink are in process of submitting their applications to the Connect Illinois funding. And in those applications are the project scope and the budgets that we'll need for our agreements as well. So we're in process of sometime this month getting those to be able to finalize those contracts, and then working with Finley Engineering to help oversee those projects once they're able to get started. And I'd be happy to try to answer any specifics aside from that.
Stephanie, go ahead.
Just thank you for all the work that you've put into this. I kind of want to go maybe just slightly rogue, if because I think this would be the appropriate place to do this, because I think this discussion would inform my opinions about some of the other things later down the list. So right now, we as a county have $370,000 something left that we have not allocated, that's unallocated. And hearing the sort of overwhelming outpouring that we've had in the community saying, we need you to fund a needs assessment of what we can do going forward to take care of our seniors in this county. I think that we do. I think we as a county have a moral, I think we in this room, especially me who was here through that whole nursing home thing, that I have some sort of moral obligation to figure out it is not acceptable that our county is in this position, that we do not have enough beds to take care of the people. I appreciate what they said about they're not asking the county to buy or to run a nursing home, but what they're saying is we need your leadership in this moment. And we have an opportunity, we have funding, we could do that. We could do that study. I've been talking a little bit with Julie Pride over at CU Public Health, and she's been talking with the Champaign County Health Department. They think that they could do it, but they are going to need some resources in order to do that kind of study. And I was like, well, give me a dollar amount. And she says she thinks about $30,000. What they're going to do is they want to go and have conversations with different care providers in the community to talk about what they can bring to the table, and try to figure out how do we change this landscape. I do think that there is some money that the county public health department has in their fund balance that they might be able to allocate towards this as well. But so I would like to propose that we direct Kathy, and I'm fine with wherever, if it's CU Public Health, if it's Champaign County Health Department, or even in conversations, they were saying maybe RPC would be the right, because they also have some institutional knowledge about senior care. I think all of them, along with CU, Champaign County Healthcare Consumers, all of them are going to need to be at the table. I don't particularly care, to be blunt, which entity we give the money to. I just think, but I don't want us to wait to July to then get Kathy started on the process, to then, do you know what I'm saying? So like, I was wondering if we as a board can have a conversation about allocating that much money so that in July, Kathy could bring us back, okay, this is, and not just Kathy, and Steve could come, the administrative office of this county could come back with a proposal in July and say, this is what we've decided. You've given us $30K. This is what we could do with it. This is the entity. Here's the, if it needs to be an IGA, because I don't want this to be something that trails on. And to some degree, that'll inform my consideration of some of these other ones, because it would be coming from that same pot of money, which is why I wanted to bring it up now.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I think you suggested that we sort of straw poll on how much the allocation would be tonight. And
Or if you even want to do it.
Yeah, I think that what would probably be best would be to give approval for Kathy to move forward with exploring this, and then when the proposal's brought back, that would include a bottom line on it.
I've talked with Kathy and tentatively scheduled a meeting either next Thursday or Friday, and I've tried to loop Kyle in on that as well. So that we spoke about that just prior to the meeting. So that meeting will be occurring next week.
Just to clarify, I think you said Kathy, and you meant
Kathy Emanuel.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes.
Talking about our Kathy.
I agree, and that was my question, was I don't think we could vote on it tonight, but straw poll, definitely have them bring the numbers to the table. 30 is not that big a number that I think that I'm good with that. One of the things, though, is I really would like to see RPC be the lead agency on this. I think they have probably a lot of expertise, and when you have a lot of different entities in the pie, they're not us, but they are here, and so I would like to see them do it. And then as a side note, I know I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but back to what Kyle was talking about on the sleep, there actually is also a community in Rantoul that is going to participate in sleep also. So, sorry, thanks.
Well, in terms of which agency we utilize, I mean, I can talk with Delitzo, I can reach out to, Urbana Public Health, I can try and work on that. But I think what Stephanie's talking about, if we've got a rough dollar amount, I think if we can get a straw poll that we would support that, that would make that process go forward a little bit more smoothly. If the off-the-cuff amount that you had from CU Public Health was $30,000, would members of the board be comfortable with allocating that dollar amount for a study to look at nursing home capacity? I have approval. I'll move forward with that. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ms. Carter.
I was hoping that Champaign County healthcare consumers could be a part of that conversation as well. Thank you.
Okay, we've transitioned through that. I'm sorry, it's late, folks. Have we formally voted to approve the resolution? I know we have a motion and a second for the infrastructure improvements. I don't believe we did approve that.
There's not a motion yet.
Okay, all right. I'm not sure that Kathy's quite done yet. And do we have any other questions for her? I don't want to cut the board short here, so.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm sorry, I feel like every time you're here, but thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kathy. Okay, now moving on. Adoption of Resolution 2023-152, authorizing intergovernmental agreement to provide financial assistance for infrastructure improvements in Garden Hills.
So moved, Ingram.
Second, Carter.
All right, motion and a second. Discussion. Go ahead, Stan.
I understand the need for some of this out there in Garden Hills, as my wife and her family grew up there right across from Garden Hills School. Back till 10 years ago, my in-laws lived out there. But I have a problem with the amount. This is the city of Champaign. I don't mind helping them out to a point, but just for my local area, and I know St. Joe's late getting their stuff in, but I know they have a major sewer upgrade to do before they can do any more building in that town. And they're looking at, I believe, I didn't have a chance to talk to Tammy, the mayor. I think it's a $18 million project. And as I have stated in this meeting room any number of times, these small communities do not have the ability to have that much sales tax revenue generated. The $2 million to me is just too much for a problem that the city of Champaign has not taken care of. And I understand the problems. I've seen it. I've been out there. So I will be voting no on $2 million.
Go ahead, Kyle.
We had a process that I think everybody found fair, where each district would be able to allocate $500,000 for projects within their district. So the rural districts, that was districts 1 through 4, had a combined $2 million. Today we're talking about $2 million. We could be talking about 4 if you look at how many urban districts there are. So this is half as much money that the rural districts got. And I do want to say, I want to thank Samantha, Stephanie, some others for really advocating for this and pushing and being persistent. I think we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, at least, and it's great to finally see it get done.
Further comments? Go ahead, Ms. Carter.
I would definitely be supporting this. This is a very small portion of the whole project. I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it was 18 million with the lights and sidewalks portion of it. So $2 million, I don't think is a big ask coming from the county. I think it's very small compared to the overall project cost. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? Hearing none. All in favor signify by, well, wait a second. Yeah, it is an intergovernmental agreement. We do need to vote on it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. We have a revised animal control funding request that's here, and Jerry Kellums, who is our new animal control director, has patiently waited through this entire meeting. You folks have not yet had most of you have not had the chance to meet Jerry. This is discussion only, but questions with regard to this, this request? Ms. Furtado.
Welcome. I just wanted to say welcome to the county, and I know animal control's been a challenging area for us, one of our many challenging areas. So I really appreciate the work that y'all have been putting in to try to get us fully staffed and all of that. I do think I don't believe animal control has received any ARPA money yet. So this is the first animal control request. My suggestion would be that we fund it through 2024, because that's what we've done for all the other softwares. If you look at the chart, we have nothing funded in 2025 and 2026. The only thing that we've considered funding that far out is replacing laptops that are going to die that we bought at the beginning of the ARPA money. So there was an idea that we could get laptops twice, but we've told all the other entities that are getting software that they could have it through 2024. So that amount would be $81,320, and I'd fully support that, especially given animal control has literally gotten no ARPA money yet. And they might be the only, we didn't give anything to the Treasurer's Department, I don't think. So them and the Treasurer's Department are the only departments that got nothing. So now getting them something, I think, would be good.
Would you consider funding through 2025, because we have not asked for anything and the software license does not start until this year? So as opposed to other entities that have had license starting last year, we're a year behind.
Ms. Michaels.
I'd like to continue with the proposal that's on the table for 24. I actually have a little bit of a heartbreak because we just put in a software system in the animal control, and I understand things need to be updated and changed, but this is something that's got to be put into their budget, and it's my understanding that you're going to have a rearrangement maybe of some of your fees. And I do think that we need to be cautious that we perpetuate this year after year, because there was 25 and 26 in here. So I will only fund through 24 in my voting. Thank you.
Just to be blunt, as finance chair, I want in the 2025 budget that we have to figure out all of the licensures that we paid for from ARPA, like all in one fell swoop. And there's multiple of these. So I feel like that landscape conversation being one conversation would be beneficial. And just to be blunt, $16,320. I know that's just not that much money in our budget. I mean, I know it's a lot of money for animal control, but in terms of like how we budget, I would rather we do all of the licensures in one fell swoop conversation. Because all told, it is going to be a few $100,000 that we're going to have to find because we funded a lot of new software we desperately needed as a county because we had software from like the 20th century. So, but we as a body are going to have to figure out what's next. We're going to have to transition off of ARPA at some point.
Yeah, I just had to ask, so.
I appreciate your moxie.
Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask Jerry? I mean, this is his first time in front of the board. Animal control, I will not say it's been the bane of my existence as a county executive, but it's occupied a lot of time. I think with Jerry's leadership, we're moving in the right direction. So if you folks would like to direct any questions to him, I'm sure he'll answer them to the best of his ability. And Dr. Storr, go ahead.
Thank you. First, welcome to Champaign County. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself and some of what you think about, tell us what we need to know about animal control?
Well, I came from a background in construction. I started volunteering at the local shelter in Indianapolis, actually 2 shelters, Humane Society and the Animal Control Facility. It was one of those things where it opened my eyes to the need for animal welfare and animal care. And I decided to make a career change. And I did that pretty much immediately. I've cleaned kennels, I've worked in the field, I've been in supervision, management, and administration. So I made the choice to, I saw the position open here and applied and relocated. So, and as far as the county, I enjoy it. I like the rural feel that it has, and but also access to everything you need at your fingertips. As far as animal control here, when I first arrived, which was in around mid-February, it was a bit of a shock to me because of the how data is being recorded. Even though the software that you mentioned was put in I believe February 1st, and I'm familiar with that software, and it's typically more of a medical software, so you would see that at a Humane Society or somewhere where they do surgical procedures and do more medical procedures. What I've noticed is we're still using a lot of paper and trying to access information when you're in the field compared to it's basically stored all over the place, and you don't have that access in the field. The other thing would be with licensing. It's difficult to process the registrations and the licensing, and that's why I believe Chameleon would be able to help. They've got over 30 years experience in animal control, both the field and sheltering operations along with licensing. So I think that about covers it.
Just to add on to what Jerry said, the software system that we have now is a product of the same company that makes Chameleon. The one that we had was basically a free product.
Yeah.
It was not designed to do the things that we need to do at animal control. Jerry recognized that, and to be able to get this software will greatly help people that are in the field. That data will be saved, and if we do have FOIA requests, it will be at our fingertips instead of having to literally look for paper where it's been written down and trying to then process that in a timely fashion. So I really appreciate Jerry's management and his knowledge, and like I said, we're moving in the right direction.
I just want to add that in the last couple of weeks, we've had 3 former animal control employees contact us about coming back to work at animal control. They left under one of the last 2, one of them left under both of the last 2 directors, but have heard about the changes that have been happening and the different atmosphere, and really want to get back into animal control and be helping the animals. So that's been a really exciting, positive thing to see happening. So, yeah.
Yep. Mr. Thorson.
Yeah, thank you for bringing your expertise and deciding to relocate and come here and help us with animal control. We know that we have had our moments with animal control. I guess my big question, it's kind of past for this year, but what's your experience with geese?
Geese? Actually, I've got quite a bit.
Wait, hold on. Professionally and publicly, animal control does not deal with geese.
I understand.
So we have none experience with that.
Right, we're not permitted to do that. That's a DNR thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, personally, I have a lot of experience with them, so.
What about emus?
Oh, no.
Well, interestingly, yeah, I've had to care for them before, and they're pretty dangerous, so it's nothing I want to do on a daily basis.
Are there any more animal species that the board wants to touch base with Jerry on? All right, Jerry, thank you for waiting through all this. You're here for a long time. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the HR generalist position funding request. Again, this is discussion only, and I feel like I should just say, Stephanie, you can have the floor now if you would like to address this one, so.
I mean, I think we need an HR generalist. We're the third largest employer in the county. Let me repeat that. We are the third largest employer in the county. Only Carl and the U of I has more staff than us. And we do not have anybody who is an HR generalist. What that means is a lot of basic HR tasks are being passed on to elected officials to try to figure out. If you got an FMLA request, often that goes to the state's attorney's office to try to figure out. I mean, we should not have attorneys that were, already are overbooked and doing, we're going to definitely hear about that, I'm sure, in the budget process, that they don't have enough attorneys to be doing their work, and they're having to pause everything to answer FMLA questions that just a basic HR person would be able to do. When I first got on this board and sat down before we even had an executive, the very first day I got appointed to this board, I'll never forget, I went to this coffee shop and what's his name, Rick Snyder, gave me an organization chart, and I was like, human resources isn't on this organization chart. And he said, yeah, it keeps me up at night. I've never heard of such a thing, and I'm going to fix it before I leave. Well, he left. Then we got somebody else. Now we're to the third person that's been in that role since I've been here, and we're finally moving on it. So I would really, really like to get this started so that we could be, a baseline functional employment entity. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Furtado. Very well said, better than I could have. Any other comments from the board in terms of this request? Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm just asking, we're going to see this, I would assume, in the budget, the upcoming budget. I mean, I just double checking, that's where I would expect to see it, and I was just making sure, thanks. I mean, I have no problem putting it in there, and I mean, I can agree that we need it. It's always just come up with the money, but I have no problem seeing it come up before us for sure, definitely.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, we talked about that in our caucus too, like the budget process is so soon, but the amount that's in here as an ARPA request would cover what's left pre-budget. If the position's not filled before that, the intent's that it would roll back into ARPA funding and get used up that way, right? All right.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it this way to abide by the budget process for adding a new position. So, if, again, we get to the budget process and you change your minds and break my heart and we don't keep the position, then, we end it at the end of the year. But I'm kind of banking that that's not going to be the situation, so.
Sorry, moving on. Election truck purchase request. I'm guessing there's been some discussion in individual caucuses about this. What's the consent? Aaron is still here. My goodness. I did not even look over that way, Aaron. I apologize.
Good evening, everyone. So all of you would have received a memo probably 2 or 3 weeks ago about this request. And I understand that there was a question about maintenance costs or potential insurance costs. I was able to go to the Dem caucus to share a little bit of information with them. I haven't had the pleasure of going to the Republican caucus yet, so if I get an invitation from Aaron or Stan, I'm just messing with you, man. I'll come hang out with y'all too if y'all buy me dinner. Just kidding, y'all. What, caucus? Taco night, okay. A little veggie taco for a brother, that'd be cool. So I wanted to just share with everyone that I have looked at, we have reached out to Deshauna to see if we can get a process on how insurance would work, so I can get an answer for that question. We also have some questions that we're going to propose to highway and facilities, to highway anyway, to find out what it would be like if they had to absorb 2 other trucks into the fleet. As far as maintenance, the director of operations, Tunde Odolate, was also with me, who shared information about the trucks, the Isuzu trucks that we were looking at, the mileage we've looked at. All the trucks we've looked at are under 100, or right at or under 100,000 miles. They are estimated, these trucks, to run for 350,000 miles. The cost is still negotiable. I have a couple of different things that I could do, and talking to Penske is the entity that we had been talking to about these trucks, and I think it could be a benefit to the county. So if the numbers, when we look at maintenance and we look at insurance, we look at the cost and the longevity of the vehicles, if it turns out to be a wash, or it turns out to be a positive for the county, I certainly would appreciate the support of the board. I'm not trying to put us in any sort of deficit, or to go backwards, or to, count backwards. That's not what I'm interested in. The flexibility of having the trucks on site for us, Matt Cross, who is clerking the meeting this evening, is the one who really takes care of our work over at the election supply building and sets up all the deliveries and pickup and things like that for throughout the county. And having trucks at our disposal when we need them, not having to worry about the pressures of renting. For instance, we had a truck, the lift gate break, and it took 3 hours for us to get someone to look at it for us to continue the delivery of our polling elections equipment. So having the trucks in our own fleet, having complete access to it, would be very helpful. As you see in the memo, we have spent lots of money over the years to rent these trucks, and it's going to continue, and that cost is only going to go up as we continue to do that. So we're paying maintenance and we're paying insurance already. It's just in the rental costs, as opposed to us having ownership of the trucks and having access to them to be used in other capacities as well. So I'm certainly open to answering any questions.
Go ahead, Diane.
Why not? Real quick, I've got a couple things. A lot of times these Penske trucks are run pretty hard. And so I'm sure that you'll have them looked over by our maintenance fleet. But would they then become part of highway and that maintenance, and then you would use them when the clerk needed them, and that way other departments could definitely have access to them should they need it? I didn't know if it was just going to be clerk specific, or it would just be part of the highway fleet.
No, so my initial proposal was clerk specific, but after speaking to and answering a few questions from other members, certainly I'm open to that. I think that idea is perfectly fine with us. I think that's getting the most use out of it. As far as them being driven hard, I understand the mentality of people when they rent vehicles, as opposed to having to take care of their own stuff. But these trucks, when I spoke to the gentleman who is in charge of that, what he shared with me was that, because I asked him why were they selling these trucks, they don't even have 100,000 miles on them yet. And he said, well, they had an influx of inventory because COVID had everything backed up, and they're getting a lot of those in that they wouldn't typically sell them this soon. And the trucks that we've looked at, they have a tier system of 1, 2, and 3, basically. 3 being below industry standards, you sort of taking your chances. 2 being meets industry standards, and 1 is above industry standards. And we've looked at the ones that are in category 1. So we've looked at that, the longevity of them, and that how they've been, I don't know how they've been driven, but how they've been cared for is certainly above industry standards. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Moving on, we have 3 funding requests from medical facilities. I know we had some people coming. I'm not sure that I can identify faces. Do we have anyone from Nest Postpartum that's here? Why don't you folks come forward?
Steve, as they're coming up, one of the reasons we're doing this today is we want to clean the decks on all of our ARPA requests. The medical facilities, we didn't really have a category for, but we did receive these 3 requests. Some of them quite a long time ago. So when I was talking with Megan about what's still out there, she said, well, y'all have never decided on those three. And I was like, well, we need to decide on those three. And so we decided this. I had this fantasy that this was going to be a short meeting. So I was like, oh, put it on the June meeting. And then, but then the agenda got out of control. So.
Anyway, questions from folks?
We do have a short
Oh, I'm sorry.
presentation.
If you have a
but we're
formal
also open
presentation,
to
go
just
right ahead.
questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you please, I'm sorry, I don't have your names. Could you please let the board know exactly who's giving the presentation?
Yes, I'm Jess Etheridge, and I was here a couple months ago, so thanks for having us back. And I'm a mother of a child who was in the NICU for a month and live in Champaign.
I am Jess Wolf, and I'm the Vice President of the Nest Postpartum Support, and I have a son who was in the NICU for 26 days, and a daughter at Carl, and a daughter who was in the Carl NICU for 8 months.
We will keep this very brief for you all. So we are the Nest Postpartum Support, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit that is based out of Champaign. We were incorporated in 2020 at the height of the COVID pandemic, and we started providing our services to local families with an infant in the Carl NICU in 2021. Our goal is to help change the narrative about the NICU experience from a story that's too often about struggle and isolation to one that focuses on community and support. So our team is founded, staffed, and supported by former NICU parents who have lived the experience of those that we aim to support. And we believe that families with a child in the NICU should be supported emotionally and financially so that they can focus on the health and well-being of their child. So we'll go into more of what the money will go for, but so I'll kind of gloss over that because you'll have a lot more specifics of the places that we really want to provide support and resources and care at no cost to the families that are in the Carl NICU. And these services and resources really fill a gap in care and support for the families that are hospitalized, and that was only exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. So a quote from one of our families: we love to keep in touch with the families that we've served. So this is a baby that was at Carl NICU, and the mom said, "It meant a great deal to have the support and help throughout my son's NICU stay, and the moral support my coordinator provided. We formed a connection through my son and had conversations we could both relate to."
So, as I'm sure many of you had seen at the height of the COVID pandemic, mothers who are giving birth, mothers with children who are hospitalized after birth, were often separated from their babies because of COVID infection control, and families, fathers, other support people were not able to visit their children and their wives or partners at that time. So during the COVID pandemic, and we're still kind of feeling the after effects now, there were no parent volunteers. There were major visitation restrictions, so families were not able to provide that bedside support that is so desperately needed while a baby is in neonatal intensive care. Prior to COVID, there was abundant research done that set a standard of best practice in NICUs. So parents are bedside as much as possible. Parent support people, so like grandparents, family friends, are also bedside as much as possible. And then there's also at Carl an abundance of peer-to-peer support. So former NICU families like us, the chaplain, the social workers, all come bedside, but during COVID, all of that was done because of infection control. So because of that, we noticed anecdotally, but then also there is a ton of research that says that maternal mental health suffered significantly because of the lack of peer-to-peer support and the lack of boots on the ground support within the NICU. So at Carl, all of those services fell by the wayside, and we kind of filled some of that niche, starting with the Nest in 2020 and 2021. So currently our population is based in Champaign County and a little bit of the surrounding counties as well. When their babies are hospitalized at Carl, we are referred a family from the social worker and discharge planner in the hospital. And our team typically supports the mothers who are at most need within the NICU. So our families are pretty consistently experiencing homelessness, domestic violence. Unfortunately, we've had several families who experienced the death of their child while they were in the NICU, and then access to basic resources. So food, transportation, and baby care items, things like that. So as part of our care coordination and support services, we link families to other Champaign County resources. So the township, places like Courage Connections, CUIFS, CCRP. We also work directly with mental health services that specialize in postpartum mental health care, and it's the Village. It's a newer mental health outpatient program here in Champaign. So we also have families who are juggling care of older children. So 50% of our families served thus far have older children at home. So balancing the life with their family at home and their infant who's hospitalized in intensive care is extremely overwhelming, in addition to those access to basic resources. And on average now, our families are with us for about 2.5 months at a time. So these are long-term NICU stays. And so currently, we are serving 8 or so families at a time. And in the first 16 months, we allocated approximately $56,000 worth of services to our families. So we provide hotel stays at the Hampton Inn, which is right next to Carl, so there's no transportation needed. And Carl does have the guest house, but there are, especially during COVID and as a result of COVID, there are very specific parameters that families must follow. So they're not able to bring siblings or additional children. They're not allowed to have support members. And so providing the hotel stays either bridge the gap when the family house is not available, or if there are extenuating circumstances that don't allow them to stay there. Additionally, we provide gas gift cards, so families that do have their own transportation can get to and from the NICU to be bedside with their baby as much as possible. We provide prepared meals so that when families get home from the NICU, they don't have to worry about cooking dinner or providing food for their other children. We do provide child care for older siblings when needed. So unfortunately, with the loss of Logic, that was so hard for us. But we have been working with the Caring Place, which is also attached to Carl, so all kind of right in their complex. So our parents are able to go to the NICU and then pick up their older children. We've provided 449 restaurant gift cards, all of which are either local to the Champaign-Urbana community, like Monocle's, or chains that are within walking distance of Carl Foundation Hospital. So again, families don't need transportation to be able to pick up a meal on their way home, or if they need a break from the unit, they're able to just step right outside of the hospital. And then additionally, we've been working closely with CUMTD and C-Carts to provide public transportation passes for families who live in town but don't have transportation on their own. So we started with really small hopes, and as we continue to do our work, we're hoping to expand the number of families that we serve, and then also the specific resources that we're able to provide for our families. So a quick anecdote just about one family specifically impacted by COVID-19 that we worked with for quite some time. Mom of 4 children was hospitalized with COVID-19, intubated and in critical condition, and then she had to have an emergency C-section at 26 weeks. So the baby was born 14 weeks prematurely and immediately transferred to Carl's NICU. Mom was in extreme critical care for 3 months and then was discharged to a rehab facility. The baby was in the NICU for 5 months, and then Dad during that time left his full-time job to care for the other children because he was the primary caregiver. So baby was discharged after a 5-month NICU stay with some long-term complications, but Mom had rehospitalizations, 2 surgeries, long COVID. So this family was in desperate need of support outside of what the walls of the NICU could provide, and that was where we stepped in. So We provided them with gas gift cards, restaurant gift cards, referrals to other community programs in Champaign County, but most importantly, emotional support. So our care coordinators are all parents, mothers who have been in the shoes of a NICU family or have direct ties in some other way. So we were able to provide that family with what they needed outside of the walls of the NICU during their child's NICU stay and mom's hospitalization as well. So we are here today to seek additional funding to continue to provide the necessary services that are often overlooked in the county for those who are among the most vulnerable in our county. We're hoping that by providing these services, we will be able to bridge the gap with the abundant research to eliminate barriers for moms and families so they can be present to focus on their babies and caring for themselves in the postpartum period. So that was our semi-abridged presentation, but we are more than happy to answer questions as well.
Hello, thank you for coming and staying so long. This is an amazing program. I don't have children, but I have 2 godchildren, and they were both in the NICU for an extended amount of time, so this is amazing. How does a family qualify for your program? How do you guys select who you're going to help? Because unfortunately, I know you can't help everyone, so how do you guys choose?
So right now, we're taking referrals from both the NICU social worker and the discharge planner, who are very involved typically from before labor or birth into the transition of the NICU with the baby. So they're very well aware of what the family composition is, of what the complications that arise during the pregnancy, and then also what resources the families need. So right now, that is how we receive referrals. We do hope to expand it to bedside nurses as well, because we do know that things arise as families are in the NICU. But like you said, we can only take 8 families at a time, and there are approximately 50 families being served on the unit at any given time. So yeah, it's overwhelming, but we're happy to have a streamline for now.
Thank you for staying late. Thank you for what you do. My daughter was a NICU nurse at Carl for 4 years, so I heard a lot. A NICU baby's family runs the full spectrum economically, belief-wise, and everything. And it really stresses the importance of taking care of, babies after they're born. And a service like this, as you pointed out, the entire focus of the family becomes that baby, sometimes at the detriment to the rest of the family care, other siblings and things, and she saw all of that when she worked there. So I think this is a fantastic thing. I wish you could do more. If we can help you do more, then I think we should.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ed.
Is this strictly Carl patients? You don't have the only NICU, do you?
So it's the Carl NICU right now, and because we're so limited in funding, eventually we would like to expand to other hospitals in the area, but specifically we are postpartum NICU at Carl support right now.
And the Carl NICU is a level 3, right? It's a level 3, so all of the most critical care from the county get transferred to, and probably even the longest stays are going to happen at the Carl NICU.
Yeah, one of the criteria when we work with the referrals is length of stay. So typically, because they have the only small baby unit in the area, they get the longest, most critical babies.
Thank you for the work that you do. As we spoke earlier, families are coming to our area from all over and oftentimes losing kind of that natural support network that a lot of us grew up with, but maybe don't have while we're raising our own children. So the work you do is extremely important. My day job is as a housing case manager, and we have actually shared some people in common, and the support that they gain from you was very, very appreciated. And, you know, I guess just, it's been a long day, I'm stumbling a little bit, but, you know, economics can also play such a huge barrier in whether people are able to get that support that they need. So thank you for the work that you do. I hope that we are able to support you.
Go ahead, Leah.
It has been a really long day. Because I'm like, oh, I need to say X, Y, and Z, and then my mic comes on, and I'm like a deer in the headlights. I'm so tired. And obviously, echoing everybody else, thank you so much for staying this late.
We got out of bedtime, so
Yeah.
this is great.
I mean, I have a bedtime, and it's like right now. You're breaking my heart with all of the, and if we had more money, we could do this, and if we had more money, we could do that, because I want to give you all the money, but I know that in our our flex fund, we have something like $300,000 in there, 370, something like that. And I know we have a lot of other things that we are going to try and fit into that flex fund. So I'm kind of just floating this out there to the board, like maybe half, 60,000 now. I mean, would that be palatable? And see what happens with it, and see if we have anything come back to us at a different time. I mean, I want to support them, but I don't know that I can do that at 120.
Go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, I can appreciate what Ms. Taylor is saying, and if that is the will of the rest of the group here too, that also needs to be on that special meeting. That's the one thing I want to make certain that we get that voted on. And so if we're having a special meeting next week, that also could be added onto it, and we could take care of that at the same time.
Well, per the special meeting, regretfully, an item that should have been on consent was not added. And I'm going to talk with our circuit clerk tomorrow about the possibility of a path forward. So I don't know what's going to be in the offing, but if that is the case, that could be that could be addressed at that time.
I apologize. I thought you said something about it because of the 30,000. Okay, I'm just reading into your mind. It's one of those Steve.
That meeting. Oh, it is.
That
it is late.
meeting.
This would be another
Okay,
special meeting.
But I
Sorry.
thought this could go on the 30 meeting because it's all ARPA money.
Well, the composition of the meeting that I was considering was going to be Kyle, myself, and Kathy Emanuel, and we can loop in our other Kathy as well. But we're talking apples and oranges here, I think.
Do we need to do that for ARPA money? We don't usually do
No,
that
we
for ARPA
don't need
money.
to. It could be a show of hands. That's what it's been in the past. Well, what's the will of the board? I'm chairing the meeting. I'm not directing how you guys choose to allocate ARPA funds. Go ahead, Jenny.
I guess if we did a show of hands straw poll for Leo's proposal for 60 now and potential for reconsideration as money comes back, because we know that they already have the infrastructure in place, can get it spent.
Okay. Tentative board approval.
Wait, Mike has his hand up.
Oh, Mike, go ahead.
I just was putting my thumb up with the caveat that I'd be very happy if we realize that we're good on spending to go up before money comes back. I'm fine to vote for the whole 120 now.
Go ahead, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, this seems like a very sharp turn. Better? Okay. Maybe we can ask in detail why you arrived at that figure instead of arbitrarily throwing out a 60. Like, what do you aim to do with it? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So our vision is to begin to service more families. So systematically, we have determined that we can take on 4 additional families, which would add an additional half more than we are currently servicing now. We also are hoping to provide additional resources. So we've recently added Instacart gift cards for like the local Schnucks and other local grocery stores. There are other resources on our docket that we have heard feedback from families that we would like to add in or have as a possibility as well. So like Lyft rides for local moms who live outside of the boundaries, or CUMTD doesn't run at the hours that they'll need to visit the NICU because it is 24 hours. Additionally, we would like to begin investigating offering these services in other facilities as well. So this would allow us that flexibility to add families, add services, and then look at potentially expanding our reach.
Also, currently the money that we have used for the last 2 years is completely funded by donors that we have contacted in the community and other NICU families. So all of this has just been run by other families like us that are donating their own money. And so we are really hoping for the 120 for the next year to be able to have the budget to serve families while now looking into a more sustainable fundraising option. So our board just voted on new ways. We worked with oh my gosh, I'm losing anyways, we worked with one of the nonprofit startup kind of yeah, that was happening in Champaign, that was being offered. That they helped kind of even give the idea of finding other sustainable fundraising ways. And so we have passed new ways to do that, but we kind of need a year of a really great padded budget to be able to continue the services while also being able to really establish a more sustainable fundraising than just reaching out to local families and asking for that kind of fundraising.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as I understand it, you arrived at this figure by surveying the needs of the community of people you have already served. So directly through social workers, and in your own personal experience, also your other ties to the community.
We do have follow-up surveys. We do follow our families after they're discharged from the NICU for a certain period of time, and we have in-depth surveys and discussions with them about what they could have used.
So quantifiable, surveying people who have been directly impacted by this, by their experience and time at the NICU, okay? And so arriving at that figure would allow you to then meet those needs. Correct. That's great. I also just want to point out here, we are, I'm recalling the conversation that we had, I'm sorry, about the other, we heard a follow-up about revolving small loans, right, or, coming back and reporting. This is money that will also beget more money, right? This is by proving that they can meet an expanded client base and handle this kind of money, they can apply for more grants because they'll have that track record. So again, this is investing in a pattern of success that can then give dividends. This already is a pillar in our community. This is a source of support that is an unmet need. There's a resource gap here, and this is the time, in my opinion, to invest in it. Not only that, I just wanted to go back to the reasons for why this is justified for ARPA funding. Again, this was exacerbated by the pandemic. What's more is that this will also help meet the needs if another pandemic occurs, which is explicitly why, several explicit reasons why we are allowed to use this for American Rescue Plan funds. So again, this is one that I am passionate about. I spent a week in the NICU with my sister, with her daughter. She was named after me. So I understand, not fully, but I've gotten a taste. This is an unmet need, and we can invest in it.
So what is the disposition of the board then? Mike suggested funding at the full requested amount?
I would also agree with that. They have the system in place to spend the money now. This is one of the things we're worried about, to make sure that this money gets out there with people who will have it spent out before we have to give it back. And they have a clear plan. So That's why I put up 2 thumbs before, because I wanted 60 for each.
I agree with supporting it full as well.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I also support that. I think it's really important. I can't imagine the experience of having to deal with that. I have a child, and I do not take for granted that she's never had major health issues. I can't imagine going through that. For future practice, can we not vote first, and then after the fact, go back and propose changing it? I mean, we have a open period to discuss it, so please, if you don't like what's being suggested, please raise your hand and have that discussion then. It's just kind of bad form.
Can I ask for clarification real fast? So the agreement at this point is the 120,000 right now in one lump sum? I just want to make sure that we
Can
move
we just
forward.
maybe just get a thumbs up on that?
All right. Question before the board then is whether or not you'll give a thumbs up for funding in full for this program.
Point of order, we have the money for that?
Yes.
Okay, so just so everyone is clear, it's the full 120 as a allotment, one time right now, going forward. Okay.
All right, thumbs up, please, folks. I'm trying to look around and see if we have a majority. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you so much. Steve?
This was well worth waiting around for.
Sorry. All right.
We're excited to come back and get to share really like how we implemented this moving forward at our next meeting. We'll get to put this in the budget and start moving forward and get to share with you guys the ways that it's affected the county. You'll see us again.
So really quickly, on your way out, introduce yourselves to Kathy, because Kathy is the next part of this awkward. And I get that this process is often awkward, but, it is what it is. Real quick, I don't think we have any support for the OSF or the Promise Health proposals. I didn't get that sense when they were brought before the board, but I just wanted to formally, not have these on Kathy's plate for the rest of her life. Am I reading the room right, that there's not support for those?
Oh, and the OSF person did not wait until the end of the meeting. Anyway.
All right, so.
I think she was over there, yes.
Okay. Yeah, the OSF one doesn't have a dollar amount, and the other one is $500,000, which we don't, to that question, we don't have it.
Kathy, are you hearing that? You're relieved of the other 2 proposals. All right. Thank you for sticking around. I see nothing else on the agenda, so we are adjourned, folks. We are only 5 minutes away from having a little bit even time for this meeting, but stay for an extra 5 minutes, guys.